So RDR2 offers a whopping 43 different plants and herbs to pick. Now, if you're feeling adventurous and installing mods, you can turn some of those common mushrooms and berries into full-blown battalions. Just know that those delicate orchids are too fancy for modding and keep their numbers strictly the same. In this video, we're sticking to the pristine, authentic 43 herbs and flowers available in the game's original recipe. No digital gardening gloves or complicated installs required. Now stick around the end where I will explain the whole modding and herbs relationship. Chapter 1. Northern and Cold Region Herbs. The plants up north look like they're having a miserable time, almost as miserable as Arthur's first bath in Valentine. Alaskan Ginseng pops up around the foothills near O'Creagh's Run. Its little red berries daringly contrast all that snow. It whips up potent health tonics in the game, which makes perfect sense. Indigenous groups in Alaska were boiling its root for strength long before any white-coated scientist wrote a paper on it. Wintergreen Berry chills out in the same climate, usually clinging to slopes and rock edges. You use it for simple health restoration. A solid, if boring, choice. Meanwhile, its real-world cousin was being expertly mashed into joint pain oils by the Lenape people. The elusive violet Snowdrop hides out in the grizzlies, especially around Barrow Lagoon. This little powerhouse refills your deadeye and helps you craft delicious herbivore bait. The ancient Greeks wrote about the real Snowdrop, apparently using it for memory and clarity. We can only assume they needed the clarity to find one in the first place. The ram's head mushroom sits near tree trunks, looking like a tough snack. It feeds into health recipes and was a famous survival food in northern climates, where pioneers basically turned it into dried jerky for the long winter haul. American ginseng also shows up in these colder trees. It became one of the first cash crops, treated like literal treasure by colonial American traders, shipping it straight to China. In the game, it's perfect for health tonics. The dragon's mouth orchid grows near the soggy wetlands around O'Creagh's Run. It has a dramatic purple bloom that definitely wasn't dressed for the weather. These orchids actually grow in real bogs across Canada, where botanists first logged them in the 18th century. Evergreen Huckleberry prefers the south, but you can occasionally spot it clinging to the warmer edges of this area. It gives a nice health and deadeye boost, and early settlers, being practical, preserved its real berries in jars all through the 19th century. These northern plants are tougher and wilder, making those icy landscapes feel actively alive in places where you expect only frostbite to thrive. Chapter 2. Lemoyne Swamplands, Herbs and Orchids. The bayou does not offer a gentle welcome. It just drops plants everywhere, and half of them seem to be climbing trees just to get away from you. Milkweed grows along the shallow water around Dewberry Creek. You use it for poison arrows, which is highly appropriate since its real sap is dangerous enough to mess with grazing animals. Hummingbird Sage grows near the water's edge and provides easy stamina restoration. Its real counterpart was used by tribes in the American South to brew energizing teas. Wild mint lines the creeks and handles both health and cooking. Romans documented mint way back in the 1st century, proving that its healing effect is as old as civilization itself. Chanterelles and parasol mushrooms grow in the wet, shaded parts of Scarlet Meadows. In the game, they are useful for crafting bait or refilling your health. Their real-life forms have been cooked in European kitchens for hundreds of years, proving they are actually worth picking up. Bulrush fills the lakesides from Caliga Hall up to Blue Water Marsh, and you use it for horse ointments and survival crafting. Oleander sage grows along the Kamasa River and is one of the few herbs that will actively punish you for trying to taste it. Ancient Mediterranean writers already warned everyone about its toxicity, so at least the game is historically accurate in killing you. Then come the orchids, the botanical drama queens of the swamp. Night-scented orchids hide in the thickest swamp parts, so small they feel like an optical illusion. Clamshell orchids cling to trunks on the swamp's southeast edge. Ghost orchids grow in the low-hanging roots, and you likely just stepped right past one. These flowers were famously hard to find in Florida, where poor botanists spent decades trying to track them down. Acuna star orchid appears on the eastern shore, with cream-colored petals that blend perfectly into the light. Cigar orchids grow in Blue Water Marsh, draped in chains of yellow flowers. Queen's orchids sit innocently on the ground near shallow water. Rat-tail orchids creep along roots and branches. Lady of the Night orchids appear along the Kamasa River and look like they're trying to achieve a dramatic glow. Finally, spider orchids hang ominously from trees near the same stretch. The vanilla flower also grows around the bayou. It is technically another orchid and was considered pure gold by the Teutonic people of Mexico long before any European even dared to taste it. Lemoyne plants make the swamp feel wildly unpredictable because every single step reveals something new. Sometimes it's a helpful health boost, sometimes it's instant death, and sometimes it's an orchid staring at you from a tree like it's judging your ability to see purple.
Chapter 3: New Hanover and Central Region Herbs. The central regions feel suspiciously convenient, almost like Rockstar built them as a botany tutorial for players who prefer fighting to foraging. Everything grows here, and most of it is practically riding right up to you. Yarrow is usually the first plant Arthur meets because its bright red clusters spread across the heartlands, essentially waving flags that say, "Pick me." It restores health and is great for medicine crafting. Ancient Greek texts already praised yarrow for treating deep, messy battlefield wounds, which makes its healing use in the game feel very old and definitely earned. Creeping thyme hides near riverbanks, rocky soil, and dry slopes. It boosts your deadeye in season's meat, giving your stew a nice Mediterranean twist. Real thyme was actually used by Egyptian embalmers and ancient cooks, giving it a very long and strange culinary resume. Wild carrot grows along almost every road out of Valentine. You can feed it to yourself or your horse, which is a nice way to build a little bond between the two of you. Carrot cultivation goes back to early Persia, where the dominant varieties were purple, long before the familiar orange carrot even knew it existed. Red raspberry pops up in the lower heartlands with red clumps along field edges. It restores health and is used in several bait recipes. Indigenous tribes of North America were brewing raspberry leaf tea for centuries, so you know it's good stuff. Blackberry and golden currant both appear around forest edges and streams, especially southeast of Valentine. Golden currant produces those bright yellow petals that help you make superior deadeye tonics. European herbalists recorded currants in the Middle Ages and used them as the base for all sorts of medicinal syrups. Indian tobacco grows near the letter E of New Hanover and spreads across the grasslands. It refills your deadeye meter and can be turned into powerful tonics. Tobacco was an important element in ceremonies for Native American nations long before settlers arrived and turned it into a cash crop. Bay bolete mushrooms cluster near tree roots in these regions. They restore health once cooked and are the digital mirror of the real bolete mushrooms prized in Central Europe. Parasol mushrooms grow in shaded fields and help you craft bait. Finally, prairie poppy grows along the Great Plains border, where its yellow petals absolutely glow in the open sunlight. Herbal manuals from the 17th century mention poppy relatives as sleep aids, perfect for a cowboy who needs a long rest. New Hanover's plants keep the gameplay flowing because they constantly restock Arthur without demanding a grueling effort, almost like the map tries to take care of you, while the actual missions definitely do the opposite. Chapter 4: West Elizabeth Herbs and the Lady Slipper Orchid. West Elizabeth feels fundamentally different because the plants grow in dramatically better-looking landscapes. Big Valley opens with tall grass, massive elk herds, and herbs that seem to hide strategically in the edges of the sunlight. Burdock root grows near the Dakota River, and you can spot its wide leaves along the water banks. It recovers stamina and was a staple in folk medicine across Europe for both digestion and purification. Wild feverfew grows in the dry grasslands south of Blackwater. It restores stamina and has a long history, showing up in Greek and Roman writings as a treatment for fevers and aches. Blackcurrant grows near Gaptooth Ridge and also pops up along the northern parts of West Elizabeth. These little berries are the secret fuel for special snake oil, echoing their real-world use in medicinal syrups during the 19th century. Oregano spreads over dry, rocky ground around tall trees and parts of Big Valley. It boosts stamina and is one of the oldest culinary herbs in the entire Mediterranean region, where it was prized for its powerful aroma. English mace grows by water sources around O'Creagh's Run and in sections of Rio Bravo. It restores horse stamina and comes from the real plant Achillea ageratum, which was a go-to ingredient in early European remedies. Huckleberry sits along the Kamasa River as it crosses into West Elizabeth. It boosts both health and deadeye, and these berries were cooked into delicious jams by settlers in the Pacific Northwest. Prairie poppy shows up again in the Great Plains with that same bright yellow bloom. Wild mint appears near water sources and helps with healing and cooking. Then we get to the Lady Slipper Orchid, which waits patiently in Big Valley valley and tall trees. It stands out with its purple, pouch-shaped flower that looks like a tiny, fancy cowboy boot. Real lady slippers were tragically hunted to near extinction because Victorian collectors were obsessed with having them in their private greenhouses. In the game, they grow quietly beside fallen logs and shady patches as if they are still desperately hiding from anyone who might be tempted to dig them up. West Elizabeth plants reflect the region itself. They are bigger, bolder, and feel less like routine pickups and much more like actual, meaningful discoveries. Chapter 5. New Austin Herbs.
It's our first location, and we have 3 red seeds in this location.
New Austin plants feel like they survived the apocalypse just out of spite. The region basically cooks everything under a relentless sun, yet these herbs still stubbornly manage to grow in the tiniest cracks. Desert sage spreads along Gap-Tooth Ridge and the edges of Rio Bravo. Its purple clusters are a nice splash of color against all that oppressive dirt, and it conveniently restores stamina in the game. Real desert sage was burned as incense and brewed in teas by tribes in the Southwest for centuries. Red sage grows only in Rio Bravo, and it is so ridiculously well hidden that most players ride right past it without a clue. Its bright red petals fuel stimulant tonics and perfectly match the real herb's history as a highly valued plant in early European herbal medicine. Black currant grows along the rocky paths of Cholla Springs and lets you craft that crucial special snake oil. These tiny berries were actually a standard fixture in syrups used by 19th century apothecaries. Wild feverfew shows up again here, spreading across the dry ground near Armadillo. Its white petals look delicate, but the plant was recorded in ancient Greek texts as a remedy against simple fatigue. English mace appears near the rivers that cut through Rio Bravo. It boosts horse stamina, giving your poor steed a much-needed boost, and its real counterpart was used in old European tinctures. Oregano thrives in the tough soil near Ridgewood Farm and was one of the major herbs carried by Mediterranean traders long before global shipping existed. Finally, you have the always reliable common bulrush. It grows along the San Luis River and any other water source in the region. This tall, reed-like plant is great for crafting horse ointments. In real life, it was famously used for everything from basket weaving to emergency survival bedding. New Austin plants create their own quiet rhythm. They reward players who slow down and actually look around in a place where the environment practically screams at you to rush through. Once you learn the distinct shapes of these herbs, the desert stops feeling empty and suddenly feels like a well-stocked pharmacy waiting patiently in plain sight. Chapter 6. The Real World of RDR2 Botany. Red Dead Redemption 2 grounds its plants in real-world history far more deeply than most players ever realize. Ginseng carries its powerful Asian trade legacy. The orchids perfectly reflect the Victorian-era obsession with rare and exotic flowers, and sage plants mirror their ceremonial and medicinal roles in the American Southwest. Humble mint, thyme, and poppies connect directly to ancient Greek and Roman herbal books, essentially making Arthur a digital historian. The game fills its map with species that already shaped human medicine, cooking, and storytelling long before our favorite outlaw ever touched them. Every single herb in the game is based on a plant that meant something crucially important to a real culture at some point in time. Modding for herbs. Now, as I promised, let me tell you about mods. If you're on PC, you can throw the botanical doors wide open with a few simple mods. The process usually begins with Lenny's mod loader or script hook RDR2, which basically teach the game how to read new custom files. Plant expansion mods can then add entirely new harvestable species, increase the spawn density of the ones you already know, or even unlock new Austin plants early for Arthur, saving you a whole lot of travel time. Most safe versions are found on Nexus mods, maintained by longtime creators. The only 2 rules are to absolutely back up your save file before installing anything new and avoid mixing multiple world editing mods unless the author confirms they play nicely together. Once you set it up correctly, the game turns into an even wider botanical playground, seriously expanding on the 43 base plants you just mastered in the regular world.